Hello, Happy New Year! Today I brought some common rules that are really important for you to know about preparing the TOEFL exam. These common rules are important for both reading and writing, especially the writings. If you make some common mistakes, then it can make some change in your meaning and cost you some minor minus points on your writing section. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about the common rules that you must know for TOEFL exam. The first comma rule is how to use the commas for the series of words and phrases. What I mean by the series are the three or more items. When you're talking about like A, B, and C, then you must put comma, comma, and C. If you have more than four or more, then you say A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, and D. So the last item usually gets and with a comma, and this is how you make the connection between the series of phrases with the commas. So for example, in TOEFL exam, comma, there are reading, comma, listening, comma, speaking, comma, and writing sections. So for the four sections of TOEFL exam, you want to put comma, 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 and the last item. The phrases works as the same way. I love reading books, comma, listening to music, comma, and watching movies, period. Now, these are the phrases. Phrases are not just a one word like reading, listening, speaking, and writing. The phrases are more than two words, meaning just one a single idea. Reading books, comma, listening to music, comma, and watching movies. And this is something special case scenario that you probably can be really easily confused about. Sarah speaks English, comma, Spanish, comma, and Japanese. These are the three items of one series, comma, and. Some students feel really awkward to have comma, and two comma ends at the same time, but this is perfectly fine in terms of a grammar. Why? Because this is another clause, another independent clause. So Mary speaks Portuguese, comma, Chinese, comma, and Spanish. This can happen only when you have another subject, which is Mary, speaks, verb, and the three objects. Object number one, Portuguese. Object number two, Chinese, and English. Object number three. So this is perfectly fine structure of the grammar. Even if you can feel a little bit awkward and funny, it is okay. The next set of the rule is the introductory words and phrases. What are the introductory words? Normally, when we talk about the introductory words, that means a lot of transitional words that you probably have to remember for the TOEFL writing section. These are however, therefore, indeed, thus, fortunately, unfortunately, furthermore, also, moreover, consequently, nevertheless, and so forth. There are many transition words that you probably want to know. And when you are using the transition words, please do not miss the comma. For example, everyone knows everyone knows that TOEFL is difficult. Period. However, you have a transitional word coming, and you have to put comma right here. My brother passed the exam after 2 weeks of study. Oh, good. My brother, comma, therefore. So if you're using the therefore in the middle of the sentence, make sure you have comma beginning and comma ending. Comma, comma. My brother, therefore, was very excited. So when you're using these words of the transitional words, you make sure to have the comma after or around. How about the introductory phrases? Most of the cases when you're writing the introductory phrases, you need a comma when you have the prepositional phrases before independent clause. This also kind of works for the gerund phrase, which starts with ing word, like studying, or studying really hard, comma. That's also working as same way, but most of the students I found are making mistakes in prepositional phrase before the independent clause. Don't miss this. especially when it's talking about the timing or under certain situation or circumstance, you need to put comma. During is a preposition. During the summer vacation, and you don't see any subject, verb, and object, so this is a prepositional phrase. During the summer vacation, you must put comma before a clause of subject, verb, and object. I, subject, visited, verb, my grandparents' home, object. So before you put the independent clause, if you have used any prepositional phrase, please put comma right here. Under the new regulation, comma, people will have more advantages. However, if you put the prepositional phrase after the subject, verb, and object, then you do not have to put comma. Like this one, my sister went to restaurant. This is a subject and verb. And you have a prepositional phrase, with her boyfriend. In this case scenario, you do not need a comma right here. So if you have a subject, verb first, then you don't have to put the comma, subject, verb, and no comma. However, if you have a subject, verb, then you do need a comma if you are putting it after the prepositional phrase. So it can be confusing, but if you can remember this simple rule, then you're not going to make many mistakes. Introductory clauses also need the comma. Introductory clauses that means the dependent clause before independent clause. The dependent clauses are easy to find. If you see any subject, verb, and object starting with a subordinating conjunctions like while, since, because, as, even though, although, if, etc., there are many different subordinating conjunctions. But if you see these words starting a new clause, then these are the dependent clause. So if you use the dependent clause before the independent clause, then you must put comma. Like this one, if you pass the TOEFL exam, if is a subordinating conjunction. So if you pass the TOEFL, the exam is a dependent clause. So if you use the dependent clause first, then you must put a comma before an independent clause. Because I love you so much, this is also a dependent clause because you have a subordinating conjunction because. I, subject, love, verb, you, object. So this is a dependent clause again. Dependent clause, comma, and independent clause. I will give you everything you want. However, if you use independent clause first and then the dependent clause after, you do not need a comma. Just remember this fact. All right. Same thing happens for the introductory phrases as a purpose. I just already talked about this, and we're moving on to the next one. Two independent clauses must have a comma in a certain way. Two independent clauses must be connected by comma and conjunction. And here the conjunctions mean and, but, and so. And, but, and so, they are the conjunctions that I mean. Okay, I talked about the subordinating conjunctions, but for the coordinating conjunction between the two independent clauses, you just need to remember the fanboys: for, and, but, and, or, yet, and so. Well, there's one more. Nor, nor, or. So you need to just add over here, nor and or. So these are the conjunctions that you need in between the two independent clauses. So let's see this. First, I, subject, memorized, verb, a lot of vocabulary is an object. And The reading section subject became verb very easy. This is a predicate adjective which works as an object position over here. Now, this is an independent clause. Independent clause number one. And also this one is an independent clause number two. How do we know? Because over here, you don't see any because, if, while, before, nor in here, you don't see any because, if, as, since. You don't see any of the subordinate conjunctions, then these are independent clauses. So if you have an independent clause number one and independent number two, then you need to have comma and or comma but or comma so. It depends on the relationship between the two independent clauses. Let's look at the second example. David went to see a doctor. David went to see a doctor. This is a subject. Verb to see a doctor is a infinitive phrase, comma, but the doctor subject was not in the office. Okay, so subject verb, they're both independent clauses. Independent clause number one, independent clause number two. Why? They have both subject and verb. Now, if you have the independent clause, two independent clauses connected together, then you need to have a comma, but. Now the but is right here because the two situation contradicts each other. Many students are worried about their future careers. Subjects, many students, verb are worried about their future careers. So the government, subject, should make a policy about this issue. Now, so you have the comma so, because this one is a cause and reason and result over here. Reason and result, then you need to put comma so. Again, this one is an independent clause and another independent clause together. You must have comma and comma so. If you don't have and but and so, then you have a serious grammar mistake called comma splice. So you're going to lose some point. If you don't put the comma, then people will be confused if this is a parallel structure or not, meaning that you can cause the confusion of the meaning. So you don't want to make the grammar mistakes with a comma. So I wish this 4 grammar points about the comma rules are very helpful for you. I have a grammar class starting from this Friday, which is January 14th. It is going to be very helpful class for you. It starts at 8:30 p.m. in New York and Boston time. Every Friday night, we're going to have so much of fun talking and practicing about the grammar rules, which will drastically improve your points for your reading, speaking, and writing section. Of course, listening has some grammar dependency, but reading, speaking, and writing are heavily dependent upon the grammar. They really carefully look at your grammar skills. So this class includes 1.5 hours of grammar lecture every week. We're going to have a lot of talks about the grammar points you need to know for TOEFL exam. And I'm going to provide you with the book material that you can practice on. And many of you have been asking about what's the good practice book for grammar that prepares well for TOEFL exam. I have a one that I can share with you for this grammar class. So this will be really helpful for you. And during this section, you are going to submit me as a homework the writing, the 2 essays, independent and integrated essays every week. So from the 4 weeks, you're going to have about 8 essays evaluated, which means that I will give you very accurate TOEFL score for your writings, and I'm going to give you the comments in terms of grammar and structure and the contents of your writing. So this will be very valuable experience that you're going to have. And you can always access the recorded lecture videos for your review. It's not just like one time, but it's going to be shared with you through the video on YouTube. So it is going to be very important review sessions that you can actually come in whenever you want to. So please, if you have any question about this class, give us the message. Thank you so much for participating. Bye.